The bullet was meant for him. I knew it the second I saw the red laser dot settle on Stefano Valenti's chest, right there on the sidewalk in front of his club, under the dim glow of the entrance lights. My body moved before my brain could catch up. I lunged, and the impact punched through my shoulder like fire wrapped in ice. The world tilted. Strong hands caught me before I hit the concrete, and when I looked up into those cold, calculating eyes, I realized I'd just made the most dangerous bargain of my life without saying a word. Inside, now. His voice was low, controlled, but I heard the edge beneath it. He half carried, half dragged me through the heavy doors. The club's interior blurred, dark wood, leather, the sharp smell of expensive whiskey. But I focused on staying conscious. My shoulders screamed. Blood soaked through my blouse, warm and wet, spreading faster than I expected. Pain radiated down my arm in waves. My hand was shaking so hard I couldn't make it stop. "Who are you?" he demanded, lowering me onto a leather sofa in what looked like a private office. The door shut behind us with a heavy click. He was already on his phone. "Castellano, now. Gunshot wound, through and through, upper shoulder. You have 3 minutes." He pressed his folded jacket against my shoulder, and the pressure tore a gasp out of me. "Vesper Ashford," I forced the words past gritted teeth. "And you need to listen." The room tilted. I grabbed the arm of the sofa with my good hand. "Before you kill my family." His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. "Your family, Dominic Ashford. He doesn't know what he's walking into." Black spots danced at the edge of my vision. I blinked them away. "Neither do you." "Explain." I could hear shouting outside, footsteps pounding, the controlled chaos of his people securing the perimeter. The shooter was already gone. I had minutes before shock dragged me under. "My father's being set up. So are you." I reached for my bag with trembling fingers, but the movement sent fresh pain lancing through my shoulder. I gasped. Stefano took the bag, pulled out the folded documents I'd stolen from Jude's locked drawer 6 hours ago. What am I looking at? Heat drop. My vision blurred. I dug my nails into my palm, used the sharp sting to focus. Routing codes, shell companies, forged manifests. The door opened, and an older man with silver hair and a medical bag moved in fast, not asking questions. Dr. Castellano, I assumed. He knelt beside the sofa, scissors already in hand. "I need to cut the shirt," he said. I nodded. Couldn't spare the breath to argue. Stefano's eyes never left the documents as the doctor worked. I felt the cold air on my skin as fabric fell away, then the sting of antiseptic. When the doctor pressed gauze directly into the wound, I bit down on a sound that wanted to be a scream. "Talk," Stefano said, still reading. "Keep talking. Who made these?" "Don't know yet." Words came out shaky. "But the signature patterns are wrong. Someone copied your logistics codes and applied them to a shipment my father thinks is legitimate pharmaceutical transport." "How do you know this?" He looked up, and I saw the exact moment he registered the blood, the torn shirt, the doctor working quickly to pack the wound. "I restore art." Another wave of pain as the doctor probed the exit wound on my back. My breath stuttered. I spot forgeries, ink aging, paper fiber composition, printing pressure inconsistencies. "Entrance wound is clean," Dr. Castellano said quietly. "Exit wound needs irrigation. This is going to hurt." It did. The world whited out for a second, and when it came back, I was shaking harder, cold sweat on my face. "Vesper!" Stefano's voice cut through the fog. Sharp, commanding. "Stay with me, the documents." I focused on his face, concentrated. Whoever made these was good, not good enough. The addendum to my father's contract, the one that ties him to this shipment, it was created after the fact and backdated. He was listening now, really listening. Someone wants my father to sign off on a dirty shipment. I had to pause, breathe through the pain as the doctor worked. "Wants it traced back to your operation. When law enforcement moves in, you both go down. But my father's family is smaller, expendable." "Going to inject local anesthetic," the doctor said. "You'll feel the needle." I did. But 30 seconds later, the screaming pain in my shoulder dulled to a heavy throb. I could think again. We become the fall guys while you take the legal hit, I continued, words coming faster now that I could breathe. And whoever orchestrated this takes your territory in the chaos. Stefano set the papers down on the desk. His movements were precise, controlled, dangerous. Who? Jude Halston, my father's second in command. He's been pushing this deal for 3 weeks. The anesthetic was helping, but I could feel exhaustion pulling at me. Every time my father hesitates, Jude finds a new reason why it's urgent, why it's safe, why it's profitable. Pressure's holding, Dr. Castellano said, wrapping gauze around my shoulder, but she needs proper treatment. IV fluids, antibiotics, monitoring for the next 12 hours minimum. Stefano ignored him, his focus entirely on me. You came here to warn me. I came here to stop you from retaliating against my family when this blows up in your face. The words came easier now, but I could feel the clock ticking. The medicine wouldn't last forever. Because when you trace that shipment back to Dominic Ashford, you're going to assume he set you up. And then my mother and my sister die for something they didn't even know about. You took a bullet for someone you've never met. I took a bullet because if you die tonight, nobody stops this. I met his eyes, held them. The deal goes through, the raid happens, and my family gets erased. I need you alive. Something shifted in his expression, not softness. Stefano Valenti didn't look like a man who did soft, but a recalibration, like he was solving a puzzle and I'd just become an unexpected variable. You're bleeding all over my furniture. Send me a bill. His mouth curved, just slightly. It wasn't quite a smile. She needs to lie still, Dr. Castellano said. The wound's packed, but if she keeps moving... What do you want? Stefano interrupted, still watching me. A deal. My vision was starting to blur at the edges again, the temporary clarity fading. I pushed through. You don't touch my family until we know who's really behind this. I help you dismantle the frame. And when this is over, my mother and sister walk away clean. And your father? If he's guilty, he pays. If he's a pawn, he gets out alive. I paused, forcing the next words to come out clear. But no retaliation on my family unless you have proof Dominic himself orchestrated this. Not Jude, not some other intermediary. Dominic. You're negotiating. There was something almost like admiration in his voice. While you're shot. I'm negotiating because I'm shot. The room tilted slightly. You have about 1 minute before whatever he gave me stops working. So if you're going to shoot me yourself, now's the time. I don't shoot people who jump in front of bullets for me. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. But I don't trust them either. Smart. You'll stay under my protection until this is resolved. No contact with your family except what I approve. No leaving the locations I assign. No making moves without clearing them with me first. The exhaustion was winning. I could feel it in my bones, but I forced myself to stay focused. I need guarantees. My mother and sister get relocated somewhere safe, tonight. My father doesn't sign anything until we know what we're dealing with. And I want your word, your actual word, that you won't kill them if this goes sideways. He studied me for a long moment. I could hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. Local PD, he said to someone I couldn't see. They're handled. Tell them shots fired, suspect fled, no victims, scene is clear. Then his attention came back to me, absolute and unwavering. You have my word, he said. No retaliation on your family without proof of Dominic's direct betrayal. Your mother and sister will be moved to a secure location within the hour. Your father will be delayed. How? The word came out slurred. The medicine was crashing, taking me with it. Leave that to me, he nodded to Dr. Castellano. She needs more? Sedative. She'll sleep for a few hours while I get her stabilized. I tried to protest, but Stefano crouched beside the sofa so we were eye level. Up close, I could see the threads of silver in his dark hair, the scar along his jawline, the absolute certainty in his expression. Yes, you have, he said quietly, answering a question I hadn't asked. The moment you jumped, I felt the needle slide into my arm, felt the world start to soften and blur. My mother, I managed. Lorelei Ashford, my sister, Blythe. Make sure they'll be safe. His voice was the last thing I heard. You have my word. When I woke up, everything had already changed. I woke up to unfamiliar ceiling and the steady drip of an IV. The room was dim, expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed Chicago's skyline glittering in the pre-dawn darkness. Leather furniture, abstract art on the walls. A door that was almost certainly locked. My shoulder throbbed, but the screaming pain from before had dulled to a deep, manageable ache. Someone had changed me into a soft cotton shirt that wasn't mine. Bandages wrapped my shoulder and upper arm, clean and professionally done. Dr. Castellano sat in a chair near the windows, reading something on a tablet. He looked up when I shifted. "Awake," he said. Not a question. "How's the pain?" 1 to 10. 5. I tested my arm carefully. Limited range of motion, but I could move. Maybe 6. "That's the good drugs." He stood, moved to check my IV. "You've been out for 4 hours. Vitals are stable. No sign of infection. You're lucky. The bullet missed the bone and major vessels." "Where am I?" "Valenti's private residence. Penthouse level." He adjusted something on the IV line. "You'll stay here for the next 48 hours minimum. After that depends on how you heal." The door opened and Stefano walked in, dressed in dark slacks and a charcoal shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like he hadn't slept, but his eyes were sharp. "Leave us," he said to the doctor. Dr. Castellano packed his bag without argument and left. The lock clicked behind him. Stefano pulled a chair close to the bed and sat. He had a thin folder in his hand. "Your mother and sister are in a secure apartment in Evanston. 2 of my people are watching them. They think you're on a last-minute work trip to New York for a restoration emergency." Relief hit so hard I almost couldn't breathe. "They're safe. For now." He opened the folder. "Your father is another matter. Someone tipped him off that the contract had issues. He's stalling the signature, asking questions. Jude is pushing hard to close the deal by tomorrow night." "Who tipped him off?" "I did. Through a third party he trusts." Stefano's expression didn't change. "I want him nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. And I need to know if he's complicit or just stupid." I pushed myself up slightly, ignoring the pull in my shoulder. "He's not complicit. He's arrogant and dismissive, but he's not a traitor." "You're certain?" "I know my father. He doesn't have the imagination for something this complex." The bitterness in my voice surprised me. "He sees what's in front of him and nothing else. It's why Jude's been able to manipulate him for weeks." Stefano studied me. "You don't respect him." "I love him. That's different." I met his eyes. "But no, I don't respect him. He's never listened to me. Not once." When I told him the deal felt wrong, he laughed and told me to stick to my paintings. His loss. Stefano said it like a fact, not comfort. He pulled a document from the folder and handed it to me. "This is the shipping manifest you flagged. I had my analyst run the routing codes. They match my standard logistics patterns exactly, down to the syntax and security tags." I took the paper carefully, studied it. "Too exactly." "Explain." "Real operations evolve, security protocols update, routing syntax shifts slightly over time as you adapt to new threats." I pointed to a code sequence. "This is formatted like your codes from 8 months ago, before you shifted to the new encryption standard after the Port Authority started auditing more aggressively." His eyes narrowed. "How do you know when I changed encryption standards?" "Last March, I restored a Caravaggio for a collector who runs freight logistics out of Newark. He complained about how you'd forced everyone in the network to upgrade their systems on short notice." I traced the sequence with my finger. He showed me the old codes versus the new ones. Said it cost him 2 weeks of delays. "You remember logistics codes from a conversation 8 months ago." "I remember patterns. It's what I do." I handed the paper back. "Someone copied your old system, which means either they don't have access to your current protocols, or they didn't realize you'd updated them." Stefano was quiet for a moment, thinking. Jude would have access to Dominic's historical records of our transactions, but he wouldn't necessarily know my internal operational changes unless he had someone inside my organization. "Do you?" "I'm about to find out." He stood, paced to the window. "The heat drop shipment is scheduled to move in 36 hours. It's already in a holding warehouse on the south side. Neutral territory, supposedly managed by an independent logistics company. But it's not independent. No, it's a shell owned by Marcello Santori. He controls the southern port access. Stefano turned back to me. I need to know what's in that shipment, not what the manifest says. What's actually in the containers. You want me to look at it. I want you to analyze the documentation trail. Every piece of paper, every digital record, every signature and timestamp. His gaze was steady, assessing. If there's a forgery anywhere in that chain, you'll find it. And if I do, then we have leverage, proof that Marcello's setting up a frame, evidence that can be used to flip this back on him. He moved closer. But I need you sharp, focused. Can you work? I tested my shoulder again, biting back the wince. Yes. Don't lie to me. I can work. I'll need breaks, and I can't lift anything heavy, but my eyes are fine, and my brain still functions. I looked up at him. When do we start? 2 hours. I'm having the files brought here. He paused at the door. There's clothes in the closet, food in the kitchen, everything. You need is in this apartment. Don't try to leave. Or what? Or my people will stop you. Gently, but they'll stop you. His expression softened slightly. It didn't make him look less dangerous. You jumped in front of a bullet for me, Vesper. That bought you protection, not freedom. The door closed behind him. I sat there for a moment, processing. Then I carefully pulled the IV out. I'd watched nurses do it enough times when my mother was sick, and stood on shaky legs. The apartment was massive. Open floor plan, industrial chic design, and beautiful art. I found the kitchen, made coffee with hands that only trembled slightly, and tried not to think about how thoroughly my life had detonated in the span of 6 hours. My phone was gone, of course it was. But there was a laptop on the dining table, closed. I opened it, no password. A single browser window already open to a secure message system. One message waiting, from S. Valente. Your mother called your cell phone 3 times. I told her you're in meetings and will call her back tonight. Blythe texted asking if you're okay. I need you to record a voice message I can send them. Keep it brief and believable. SV. I read it twice, feeling the careful control in every word. He was managing my life now. My family, my communications, my movements. I'd agreed to this. I'd negotiated these exact terms. It still felt like being trapped. I typed a response. I'll record the message, but I need something in return. My studio, I have a restoration deadline in 3 days for a client. If I miss it, I lose the contract and my reputation. Can your people handle the delivery? The reply came in less than a minute. Give me the details. It will be handled. SV, I wrote out the instructions, where to find the completed piece, how to package it, the client's contact information, and hit send. Then I found the clothes. Jeans that fit better than they should have, soft sweaters, everything in dark, neutral colors. I changed carefully, my shoulders screaming in protest, and braided my hair with one hand. By the time Stefano returned, I was sitting at the dining table with coffee and the laptop, looking as functional as I could manage. He had 2 men with him, both carrying file boxes. They set them on the table and left without a word. Everything that exists on the heat drop shipment, Stefano said. Manifests, customs paperwork, routing schedules, insurance documents, shell company registration, bank transfers, email chains, all of it. I pulled the first folder toward me. This is going to take hours. You have 12. After that, the window closes. What happens in 12 hours? Jude's pushing your father to sign the final contract tomorrow at noon. If he signs, the shipment moves that night, and the raid gets triggered 48 hours later. Stefano sat across from me. I need ammunition before that signature happens. I opened the folder and started reading. The work was methodical, painstaking. I sorted documents by type first, manifests separate from customs forms, bank records separate from emails. Then I cross-referenced dates, looking for inconsistencies. Stefano worked beside me, reviewing security footage from the warehouse on his laptop, making calls in a language I didn't recognize. Italian, maybe. His presence was distracting in a way I didn't want to examine. 3 hours in, My shoulder was on fire and my vision was starting to blur. "Break," Stefano said, not looking up from his screen. "I'm fine. You've been squinting at that page for 5 minutes without turning it. Break, now." I wanted to argue, but he was right. I stood, stretched carefully, and went to the kitchen for water. He followed, leaned against the counter while I drank, his eyes tracking my movements. "You're used to working alone," he said. "I'm used to people underestimating me." I set the glass down. "It's quieter that way. Your father, among others," I met his gaze. "Men like you don't usually ask what I see. They tell me what I should be seeing instead. I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm asking for your expertise." His voice was calm, factual. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "You're here because you know things I don't. If I wanted someone to agree with me, I'd hire a mirror." He moved closer, just slightly, not threatening, but deliberate. "I want the truth, even if it's inconvenient." The air between us felt charged. I couldn't tell if it was chemistry or just the intensity of the situation. Maybe both. "Then here's an inconvenient truth," I said. "You're not going to find the smoking gun in those files. Whoever built this frame was too careful. They wouldn't leave obvious evidence." "Then what am I looking for?" "The absence of evidence. The thing that should be there, but isn't." I turned back toward the table. Every legitimate shipment has a chain of physical inspections. Someone signs off at each checkpoint. But if this is dirty, someone in that chain got paid to skip a step or fake a signature. So we find the gap. We worked in silence after that, the city waking up beyond the windows. I flagged 3 documents where signatures didn't match the handwriting samples I'd found in earlier paperwork. Stefano made notes, cross-referenced them against personnel files. And then I found it. A customs declaration form, dated 6 days ago. The signature was for an inspector named Robert Marlowe. But the pressure of the pen was wrong, too light, too hesitant. And the timestamp was for 3:47 a.m. "Customs inspectors don't work at 3:47 in the morning," I said. "Not for routine pharmaceutical shipments. That's graveyard shift. No oversight." Stefano looked at the document. "Marlowe's on Marcello's payroll. Has been for 2 years. Can you prove it?" "I can prove he signed off on a shipment he never physically inspected. That's enough to create doubt." He pulled out his phone, photographed the document. "This is leverage." I sat back, exhausted. The win felt small, but it was something. Stefano's phone buzzed. He read the message and his expression hardened. "What?" I asked. "Jude just moved your father's meeting up. Contract signature is now happening tonight at 8 p.m. instead of tomorrow noon." He stood. "Someone's accelerating the timeline. They know I'm here. They know something spooked Dominic. They're forcing the play before he can back out completely." Fear spiked through me. My family is still secure, but we need to move faster. He was already texting someone. "I need you to do something, and you're not going to like it." "What?" "Call your father, convince him not to sign." I stared at him. "He won't listen to me. He never listens to me." "Then make him listen." Stefano's eyes were hard. "Because if he signs that contract tonight, I can't protect him from what comes next." Stefano set a phone on the table between us. Not my phone. A burner, clean and untraceable. "You have 1 chance," he said. "Make it count." I stared at the phone like it might bite me. What do I even say? "Hi, Dad. Don't sign the contract because I'm currently hiding in a mobster's penthouse after getting shot." "You tell him the truth. Enough of it to make him stop." Stefano's voice was calm, but I heard the edge underneath. "He's arrogant, not stupid. If you can make him see the pattern, he'll hesitate." "You don't know my father." "Then educate me." I picked up the phone, turned it over in my hands. My shoulder throbbed in time with my pulse. Dominic Ashford built his business on being the smartest man in the room. He doesn't ask for advice because he doesn't think he needs it, especially not from his daughter who wastes her talent on dead paintings. He said that to you last month, when I suggested he hire an independent auditor before expanding into pharmaceutical transport. The bitterness tasted familiar. He told me to stick to my brushes and let the men handle business. Stefano was quiet for a moment, then, "Call him anyway." "Why? So he can dismiss me again?" "No. so you can prove him wrong. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. You jumped in front of a bullet because you saw a pattern no one else saw. You found a forged customs document in 3 hours that my analyst missed in 3 days. You're not asking for his approval, Vesper. You're giving him information that will save his life. There's a difference. Something in his voice cut through my fear. Not comfort. Stefano Valenti didn't do comfort, but certainty. Like he saw something in me I'd stopped seeing in myself. I dialed my father's number. He answered on the second ring. Vesper, where the hell are you? Your mother's been calling. Dad, listen to me. I cut him off, kept my voice steady. Don't sign the contract with Jude tonight. Silence. Then, how do you know about that meeting? Because I know about Heat Drop. I know about the shell companies and the forged routing codes and the customs inspector who signed off on a shipment at 3 in the morning when he should have been home asleep. Vesper, what are you talking about? The pharmaceutical transport deal. It's not what Jude told you it is. I closed my eyes, pictured the documents spread across the table. The routing manifest used logistics codes that were outdated 8 months ago. The insurance documents have signature pressure inconsistencies, and the customs declaration was filed during a graveyard shift with no oversight. Someone built a very expensive forgery, Dad, and they're using your company to move it. Another pause, longer this time. Where are you getting this information? Does it matter? Yes, it damn well matters. You're my daughter, not a logistics analyst. I'm a forgery expert. My voice came out sharper than I intended. It's literally what I do for a living. And I'm telling you that every piece of paper Jude put in front of you was designed to look legitimate while hiding something dirty. Jude's been with me for 6 years. And someone's been paying him for at least 3 weeks to steer you into this deal. I opened my eyes, looked at Stefano. He nodded slightly. Keep going. The shipment isn't pharmaceuticals. Or if it is, there's something else in those containers. Something that will bring law enforcement down on you so hard you won't have time to hire a lawyer before they seize everything you own. You're being paranoid. I'm being careful. There's a difference. I took a breath, forced myself to stay calm. I need you to trust me, just this once. Delay the signature. Tell Jude you want an independent inspection of the shipment before you commit. If I'm wrong, you sign tomorrow and I apologize. But if you're right, then I just accuse my second in command of setting me up based on my daughter's paranoid theories about ink pressure and timestamps. Based on evidence. From where, Vesper? Who's feeding you this information? His voice hardened. Are you involved with someone? Is this about a man? I almost laughed. Almost. This is about keeping you alive, Dad. And keeping Mom and Blythe out of the blast radius when this explodes. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being specific. My hand tightened on the phone. Delay the signature. 24 hours. That's all I'm asking. I can't just delay a multi-million-dollar contract because my daughter has a bad feeling. It's not a feeling. It's evidence. And if you don't delay that signature, you're going to lose everything. My voice cracked slightly. Please, Dad, for once in your life, just listen to me. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, I'll think about it. That's not good enough. It's what you're getting. I'll review the documents again before the meeting. If I see what you're seeing, I'll delay. If I don't, I'm signing. He paused. And Vesper? When this is over, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about what you've gotten yourself into. The line went dead. I set the phone down carefully, afraid if I moved too fast, I'd throw it across the room. He didn't believe you, Stefano said. Not a question. He never does. I stood, paced to the window. The city sprawled below, indifferent to the small disaster of my family imploding. He'll review the documents, see exactly what he wants to see, and sign anyway. Because admitting I was right means admitting he was wrong, and Dominic Ashford doesn't do wrong. Then we moved to contingency planning. I turned. Which is what? We make sure that even if he signs, the shipment doesn't move. Stefano stood, moved to stand beside me at the window, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. And we ensure that when law enforcement comes looking, they find Marcello's fingerprints, not your father's. How? Leave that to me. He glanced at me, and something in his expression shifted. Softer, almost gentle. You did what you could. The rest is out of your hands. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be true. He was quiet for a moment. When did you stop expecting him to listen? The question caught me off guard. What? Your father. When did you stop believing he'd hear you? I looked out at the city, remembering. I was 16. My mother had just been diagnosed with lupus. The medical bills were piling up, and I suggested he shift some business investments to cover them. He laughed. Told me women don't understand finance, and I should focus on getting into a good college instead of playing accountant. What happened? He lost $40,000 on a bad investment 3 months later. Could have covered Mom's treatment twice over. I swallowed against the old anger. I stopped making suggestions after that. Started keeping my observations to myself. Until last night, I turned to face him. When keeping quiet meant watching my family get erased. Stefano studied me with those dark, unreadable eyes. You're more like him than you think. I'm nothing like him. You both see what you want to see. He sees a daughter who doesn't understand his world. You see a father who will never respect you. He moved closer, just slightly. But you came to me with evidence, not theories. You negotiated a deal while bleeding out. You found a forged document in 3 hours. That's not someone who needs her father's approval. That's someone who already knows her worth. The words landed somewhere deep, in a place I didn't know was still raw. You don't know me well enough to say that, I said quietly. I know you jumped in front of a bullet for a stranger. I know you're still standing after getting shot. I know you went toe-to-toe with me in a negotiation and won concessions I didn't plan to give. His voice was low, certain. I know enough. The air between us felt electric, dangerous. I should have stepped back. Instead, I held his gaze. Why does it matter to you, I asked, whether I know my worth or not? Because people who don't know their worth make stupid decisions, get themselves killed. Something flickered in his expression. Old pain, carefully controlled. And I need you alive. For the investigation. For the investigation, he agreed. But the way he said it felt like a lie. My phone, his phone, the burner, buzzed on the table. Stefano moved to check it, and the moment broke. His expression hardened as he read the message. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Jude's people were spotted outside your studio 2 hours ago. They tried to access the building. My team intercepted them before they got inside, but they know where you work. He looked up. They're looking for you. Fear spiked cold through my chest. Did they? Your work is safe. The restoration piece was already picked up and delivered to your client an hour ago. He pocketed the phone. But your studio is compromised. You can't go back there. That studio is my livelihood. That studio is a target now. And if they can't find you there, they'll look for you everywhere else you're known to go. He was already moving, gathering files, making calls. I'm pulling your mother and sister out of Evanston, moving them to a secondary location, somewhere Jude doesn't have eyes. This is spiraling. This is them panicking, which means we're close. Stefano's voice was calm, controlled, but I heard the satisfaction underneath. They wouldn't be moving against you if you weren't a threat. Great, I'm officially dangerous. I sat down hard, my shoulders screaming. What happens now? Now we wait for your father's decision. And we prepare for the likelihood that he makes the wrong one. Stefano came back to the table, sat across from me. In the meantime, you stay here. No leaving this apartment. No contact with anyone outside our controlled channels. No risks. I'm already a risk. You're an asset. There's a difference. He pulled his laptop over, started typing. And assets are valuable enough to protect. I watched him work, this man who'd gone from stranger to ally to something I didn't have a name for in the span of 12 hours. He'd kept his word so far. My family was safe, my work was handled, and I was still breathing. But the cost of his protection was my freedom, my independence, everything I'd built on my own. And the terrifying part was that I was starting to think it might be worth it. Stefano, I said quietly. He looked up. Thank you for keeping your word. Something shifted in his expression, not quite a smile, but close. I'm not finished yet. I know, but still, thank you. He held my gaze for a long moment, then nodded once and went back to his work. And I sat there, in a stranger's apartment, bleeding and exhausted and more awake than I'd felt in years. The call came at 7:43 p.m. Stefano's phone buzzed once, and I watched his expression harden as he read the message. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. He signed, I said, not a question. 17 minutes ago. At Jude's office, not the planned location. Stefano set the phone down with controlled precision. The contract's filed. The shipment moves at midnight. I'd known it was coming. Had spent the last 9 hours preparing for this exact outcome. But hearing it still felt like a kick to the chest. So we moved to contingency, I said, keeping my voice steady. We moved to contingency. He was already texting, coordinating. The shipment's leaving the Southside warehouse at midnight. Standard route would take it through the industrial corridor, then north to the distribution center. But Marcello's people will reroute it, somewhere they can stage the raid and control the narrative. You need to know where they're taking it. I need to intercept it before the raid happens. Swap the cargo, replace it with something clean, and leave Marcello holding evidence that points back to him instead of your father. He looked up. But that requires knowing the route change in advance, which means someone on the inside, which means forcing someone on the inside to talk. His eyes were cold, calculating. Jude's coordination with Marcello has to run through intermediaries. Drivers, logistics managers, security personnel. Someone knows the new route. I just need to find them. I stood, ignoring the pull in my shoulder. Then let me help. You're injured. I can analyze personnel files. Look for the weak link. The person most likely to flip under pressure. I moved to the table where his laptop sat. You're good at intimidation. I'm good at finding patterns in people. We use both. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Personnel files are in the secure drive. Password is sent to your burner. We worked in tandem, pulling up employee records for the warehouse operation. Drivers, shift supervisors, dock managers. I looked for the tells, financial stress, recent life changes, inconsistent work history, anything that suggested vulnerability. 20 minutes in, I found him. Marcus Lowe, night shift supervisor. Wife just had twins 3 months ago. Medical bills piling up. Missed 2 mortgage payments. I turned the screen toward Stefano. And he's scheduled for tonight's shipment departure. That's not random. Stefano scanned the file. Jude would need someone on site to confirm the cargo loaded correctly and coordinate timing with Marcello's reroute team. So Lowe's being paid to make sure everything goes smoothly, which means he knows the new route. I pulled up Lowe's phone records. Stefano's people were thorough. 3 calls to an unknown number in the last week. Always brief, always late at night. Burner phone, probably Jude's intermediary. Stefano made a call. I need Marcus Lowe picked up. Quietly. Bring him to the secondary location. 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at me. This is going to get ugly. You should stay here. Not a chance. Vesper, you need me there. If he's scared enough, he'll lie. I can tell when people are lying. I met his eyes. Forger, remember? I read micro-expressions, hand tremors, eye movement patterns. You get him scared. I'll tell you when he breaks. Stefano's jaw tightened. Then, you stay behind me. You don't engage directly. And if I tell you to leave, you leave. Agreed. We took his car, sleek, black, armor-plated in ways I tried not to think about too hard. The secondary location turned out to be a closed auto shop on the west side. The kind of place that looked abandoned but had cameras covering every angle. Luca was waiting inside with Marcus Lowe, who looked exactly like his file photo. Mid-30s, exhausted, terrified. I don't know what this is about, Lowe said immediately, his voice shaking. I haven't done anything. You've made 3 calls to a burner phone in the last week, Stefano said, his voice calm and cold. You're scheduled for tonight's heat drop shipment, and you're about to tell me where that shipment is being rerouted after it leaves the warehouse. Lowe's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. He's lying, I said quietly from my position near the door. His left hand just clenched. That's a stress tell. Stefano took 1 step closer to Lowe. My associate is very good at reading people, so let's try this again. And this time, don't waste my time. I can't, they'll kill me. And I'll destroy everything you have if you don't cooperate. Stefano's voice didn't rise, didn't need to. Your wife loses her job. Your twins lose their home. Your mother gets evicted from that nursing home on Ashland Avenue. Your credit, your reputation, your future, all of it gone. You'll spend the rest of your life digging out from under the wreckage I leave behind. I watched Lo's face, saw the moment true terror set in. He's bluffing, Lo whispered. He's bluffing, right? No, I said. Because Stefano wasn't bluffing about the threat, even if the follow-through would be financial ruin rather than violence. And Lo needed to believe it. He's not, Lo broke. The shipment gets rerouted to a private airstrip outside Joliet, 40 minutes south. Marcello's people take it from there, stage it for the raid at a decoy location that ties back to Ashford and Valenti Logistics. That's all I know. I swear, that's all I know. Timing, Stefano said. Midnight departure from warehouse. Arrival at airstrip by 1:15 a.m. Raid scheduled for 6 a.m. at the decoy site. Lo was shaking now. Please, I've got kids. I needed the money. Luca's hand was already on his phone, screen dark, mic live, recording every word. You'll get your money. From me. Stefano pulled out his phone, transferred something. 50,000 just hit your account. Enough to cover your debts and relocate your family. You're going to take your wife and kids and disappear for the next 72 hours. If I find out you warned anyone we had this conversation, the deal's off. Lo nodded frantically. I won't, I swear. Thank you. Get him out of here, Stefano said to Luca. When we were alone, I turned to him. You paid him. I bought his silence and his family's safety. Cheaper than the alternative. He was already making calls, coordinating the intercept. We have less than 5 hours before that shipment arrives at the airstrip. If we can swap the cargo before Marcello's people arrive, we flip the entire frame. And if we can't, then your father goes down for trafficking, I go down for conspiracy, and Marcello takes everything. His eyes met mine. So we don't fail. What do you need me to do? You've done enough. You found Lo. You read him. You gave us the route. He moved toward the door. Now I need you to go back to the apartment and wait. No, he stopped. Vesper, I'm coming with you. I walked toward him, ignoring my shoulder's protest. You need eyes on that cargo. Someone who can verify what's actually in those containers versus what the manifests say. Someone who can document the discrepancies in real time. It's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous. I jumped in front of a bullet, remember? I held his gaze. I'm not sitting in your apartment while you risk everything to save my family. I'm coming with you. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, you stay in the vehicle unless I clear you to approach. You follow every order I give without question, and you wear a vest. Deal. The airstrip was exactly as grim as I'd imagined. A single runway, a corrugated metal hangar, and enough darkness to hide a dozen crimes. Stefano's people had already secured the perimeter by the time we arrived at 11:30 p.m. The plan was surgical. Intercept the shipment, verify contents, swap the dirty cargo for clean pharmaceutical supplies Stefano had already staged at a nearby facility, document everything, and let Marcello's people pick up the clean shipment, thinking it was still the frame job. The containers would be resealed with numbered customs locks. Marcello's pickup crew wouldn't break them, not if they wanted the paperwork to look pristine when the raid hit. When the raid happened at 6 a.m., they'd find legitimate cargo and a paper trail that implicated Marcello's shell companies, not my father's. It was elegant, it was risky, and it required perfect timing. We waited in the SUV, Stefano coordinating final positions via encrypted radio, while I tried to calm my racing heart. The vest he'd made me wear was heavy, uncomfortable, a constant reminder of how wrong this could go. You're nervous, he said, glancing at me. I'm terrified. No point lying. What if Lo warned them? What if they changed the route again? What if... Then we adapt. His hand found mine briefly, squeezed once. But Lo won't talk. He's too afraid of losing what I just gave him. And my people have eyes on every approach. If anything changes, we'll know. The wacky touch steadied me, grounded me. I nodded. At 1:11 a.m., headlights cut through the darkness. The truck rolled in slowly, exactly on schedule. Stefano's people moved like shadows. 3 vehicles boxing in the transport, weapons drawn, the driver surrendering before he could reach for his phone. "Wait for my signal," Stefano said to me. Then he was out, moving with his team. I watched through the tinted windows as they secured the driver, opened the rear cargo doors, began the verification process. Then Stefano's voice came through the comm unit in my ear. "Vesper, I need you, now." I was out of the SUV and moving before I could second-guess it. The cargo containers were massive, industrial-grade steel. The first one stood open, and even from 10 feet away, I could see it wasn't pharmaceuticals. "What am I looking at?" I asked, approaching carefully. "You tell me." Stefano stood beside the container, his expression grim. I stepped closer, pulled out my phone for the flashlight, and examined the contents. Crates, military-grade, unmarked. I pried open the nearest one carefully. Firearms, high-capacity rifles, disassembled but clearly military hardware, dozens of them, packed in foam. "Weapons," I said, my voice steady despite the ice in my veins. "Not pharmaceuticals, not drugs. Guns." "Illegal arms trafficking," Stefano confirmed. "Enough to put your father away for 20 years minimum. And with my logistics codes on the routing manifests, I'd go down as the supplier." I moved to the next crate, documenting everything with my phone's camera. Serial numbers, quantities, packing details. My hands were steady. Years of restoration work had taught me to stay calm while cataloging valuable items. This wasn't art, but the principle was the same. "The manifest list antibiotic shipments and medical equipment," I said, cross-referencing the paperwork Luca handed me. "But the weight's wrong. Pharmaceuticals wouldn't weigh this much. Anyone doing a proper inspection would have caught it." "Which is why Inspector Marlowe signed off at 3 a.m. with no oversight," Stefano said. "No real inspection happened." I photographed the discrepancies, the forged signatures, the timestamp inconsistencies. Every piece of evidence that proved this was a setup. Behind me, Stefano's team was already unloading the weapons, replacing them with actual pharmaceutical supplies from the trucks they'd brought. Clean cargo that matched the manifest exactly. "How long for the swap?" I asked. 12 minutes, Luca said, checking his watch. "We're fast." I verified the replacement cargo as it went in. Actual antibiotics, medical equipment, everything legitimately sourced and documented. The weights would match now. The contents would match. And when Marcello's people picked this up, thinking they were moving illegal weapons, they'd actually be transporting clean goods. The trap would spring on them instead of us. "Done," I said, finishing my documentation. "I have everything we need. Photos, weights, serial numbers, the works." Stefano nodded. "Back to the vehicle, now." I was halfway there when I saw him. Jude Halston, stepping out of a black sedan about 30 yards away, phone to his ear, scanning the scene. He must have come when the driver failed to send his scheduled check-in signal. "Stefano," I said into the comm unit. "Jude's here, southeast corner." His response was immediate. "Stay in the vehicle." But Jude was already moving, walking toward the hangar with purpose. And I saw what Stefano couldn't from his angle. Jude's hand going to his waistband, pulling something metallic. A gun. I was out of the SUV before I could think about it, running toward the hangar, shouting, "He's armed!" Everything happened too fast. Jude turned, saw me, his expression shifting from shock to rage. "You!" Stefano appeared from behind the truck, weapon raised. "Drop it." But Jude was already aiming, not at Stefano. At me. "You ruined everything," Jude said, his voice shaking with fury. "Months of planning, millions in payoff, all because Dominic's useless daughter couldn't mind her own business." "Drop the weapon," Stefano repeated, moving between us. "Now." "She's the reason this fell apart. She goes to you, warns you, and suddenly Dominic's asking questions, delaying signatures." Jude's gun hand trembled. "I should have killed you days ago." "You tried," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "In front of Stefano's club, your hired gun." Jude's eyes widened slightly. "You can't prove that." "I can prove you've been coordinating with Marcello Santori for 3 weeks. I can prove you forged routing manifests and customs documents. I can prove you manipulated my father into signing a contract designed to destroy him." I took a step forward despite Stefano's warning look. And I have recordings of Marcus Lowe confirming the reroute plan. You're done, Jude. Not if you're dead. The gunshot cracked through the night. But it wasn't Jude's gun. Stefano had fired first. A single shot to Jude's shoulder that sent him sprawling, his weapon clattering across the concrete. Luca was on him in seconds, zip-tying his wrists while Jude screamed. Stefano turned to me, his expression thunderous. I told you to stay in the vehicle. He was going to shoot you. He was going to shoot you. His hands gripped my shoulders, careful of my injury. You ran toward a man with a gun, Vesper. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking he couldn't see you from his angle. I was thinking if I distracted him, you'd have a clean shot. I met his eyes. I was thinking I'd rather take the risk than watch you get killed. You don't get to make that call. Yes, I do. You don't own me, Stefano. You protect me, fine, but I get to protect you too, my voice rose. I jumped in front of one bullet for you. Don't act surprised when I do it again. Something shifted in his expression. The anger melted into something else, something raw and unguarded. You're going to drive me insane, he said quietly. Probably. And then he kissed me. It wasn't soft, wasn't gentle. It was fury and relief and fear wrapped into one desperate moment. His hands in my hair, my good arm fisting in his shirt. The world narrowing to just the two of us in the middle of controlled chaos. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. We're not done with this conversation, he said. I know. But right now, we have evidence to secure and a raid to redirect. He pressed his forehead to mine briefly. Stay close to me, please? Okay. Luca approached, professional as ever despite having just witnessed his boss kiss a woman in the middle of an operation. Cargo swap complete. Jude's secure. Clean trucks ready for Marcello's pickup team. What do you want to do with the weapons? Lock them down in the secondary warehouse. I'll decide later. Stefano's hand stayed on my back, protective. And get Jude to the doctor. I want him alive and talking. On it. We had Jude. We had the evidence. We had the cargo swapped and documented. And for the first time since this started, I thought we might actually win. We'd moved to the surveillance vehicle an hour after securing Jude, leaving Luca to coordinate cleanup at the airstrip. Stefano had sent Jude to a private medical facility under guard, alive, as promised, but not free. The bullet wound was clean, non-lethal, exactly as intended. Now we waited in the pre-dawn darkness, parked a quarter-mile from the pickup point, watching the empty road through infrared cameras. Marcello's people arrived at 3:47 a.m. 2 SUVs, 4 men, all armed and cautious as they approached the truck we'd left waiting at the airstrip. They're sweeping for traps, Luca said quietly into his comm, narrating for Stefano. Checking the perimeter. Driver's still zip-tied in the cab where we left him. Let them find him, Stefano said. Adds authenticity. I watched the screens as one of Marcello's men cut the driver loose. There was a brief, heated conversation, the driver gesturing frantically, clearly explaining how he'd been jumped. The cargo seized, then mysteriously returned. He's selling it, I murmured. Telling them Valenti's people intercepted, but couldn't move the shipment themselves so they had to put it back. Which is exactly what Marcello will expect, Stefano said. He thinks I'm scrambling, trying to stop the frame, but not powerful enough to actually redirect it. One of Marcello's men climbed into the truck's cargo area. We couldn't hear the conversation, but we didn't need to. He was checking the containers, verifying the seals, making sure the shipment was intact. Clean pharmaceutical cargo with perfect documentation and legitimate sourcing. He'd find nothing wrong, nothing suspicious. They're taking it, Luca confirmed. Hitching up now. I watched the truck pull away, those clean containers heading toward whatever decoy location Marcello had staged for the raid. In less than 3 hours, federal agents would descend on that site, expecting to find a massive arms trafficking operation tied to Stefano Valenti and Dominic Ashford. Instead, they'd find legal pharmaceuticals and a paper trail that led directly to Marcello Santori's shell companies. It's done, Stefano said, leaning back in his seat. The tension in his shoulders finally eased. The trap's set. Now we wait for it to spring. What about my father? I asked. The question I'd been holding back all night. He signed that contract. His name is on the documentation. Even with the cargo swap, he's still implicated. He signed under false pretenses. Jude manipulated him into a contract based on forged information. Stefano pulled out his phone, showed me a message thread. My lawyers have been working since midnight. They filed an emergency petition to invalidate the contract on grounds of fraud and coercion. Your father's signature is dated yesterday, but the addendum Jude created, the one that actually tied him to the illegal shipment, was backdated. We can prove it. The ink aging, I said, recognizing my own analysis. The ink aging. The paper fiber discrepancies. The routing code inconsistencies. His eyes met mine. Everything you found. It's all evidence that your father was set up, not complicit. Will it be enough? It'll be enough to create reasonable doubt. And with Jude in custody, ready to flip on Marcello to save himself, Stefano's smile was cold. Your father walks away bruised but alive, exactly as promised. Relief hit so hard I had to close my eyes for a moment. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He's still going to lose the pharmaceutical contracts. His reputation will take a hit, and he'll spend the next year dealing with legal scrutiny and federal audits. Stefano's voice was matter-of-fact. But he'll be alive, and so will your mother and sister. That's all I asked for. I know. He stood, offered me his hand. Come on. We're not waiting here for the raid. I have a better place to watch Marcello's world collapse. The better place turned out to be Stefano's penthouse. The same apartment I'd woken up in what felt like a lifetime ago, but had only been yesterday morning. Dawn was breaking over Chicago's skyline when the news alert came through at 6:14 a.m. Federal raid nets, major organized crime figure. I read the article over Stefano's shoulder as he scrolled through the details on his tablet. Marcello Santori, arrested at a warehouse facility in connection with illegal arms trafficking. Multiple associates detained. Evidence seized included financial records, shell company documentation, and communications linking Santori to customs fraud and bribery. No mention of Stefano Valenti. No mention of Dominic Ashford. The weapons we secured ended up exactly where they needed to be, Stefano said, reading further. Traced back to Marcello's network through routing codes and manifests that my people ensured were discovered during the raid. His lawyers are going to have a hard time explaining how military-grade firearms got linked to his shell companies. Poetic justice, I said. He tried to frame you with your own codes. Now he's caught with his own. There's more. Stefano switched to a different screen. Jude's talking. Full cooperation in exchange for witness protection and a reduced sentence. He's giving them everything. Meeting records, payment transfers, communications with Marcello's intermediaries. The entire conspiracy. And my father? Is currently in a federal building answering questions with his lawyer present. But according to my contact, the investigators are treating him as a victim of fraud, not a co-conspirator. Stefano set the tablet down. He'll be released by this afternoon. I sat down on the leather sofa, the weight of the last 36 hours finally catching up with me. We'd won. Against impossible odds, we'd actually won. Your mother and sister are being moved back to their home today, Stefano continued. My people will maintain light surveillance for the next week to make sure there's no residual threat, but they're safe. The danger's over. What happens to Jude? Federal custody, long trial, longer prison sentence. Stefano's voice was cold. He'll spend the next 20 years wishing he'd made different choices. And Marcello? The evidence is overwhelming. Even with the best lawyers, he's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Stefano poured 2 glasses of whiskey despite the early hour, handed me one. His territory will fracture without him. His organization will collapse. His phone buzzed before he could continue. He read the message, and I watched his expression shift. Something calculating moving behind his eyes. Problem? I asked. Opportunity. He showed me the screen. Marcello's second in command. He's offering to flip. Give me everything. Shipping routes, political contacts, offshore accounts, client lists. In exchange for protection and a percentage. That's good, isn't it? It would be the deal of the decade. I'd acquire his entire operation for pennies on the dollar. Double my territory overnight. Access to ports and distribution networks I've been trying to penetrate for 5 years. He set the phone down. Except what? Except my lawyers just informed me that fully protecting your father from federal scrutiny, ensuring the case against him is dismissed entirely, not just reduced, requires I provide the prosecutors with evidence that Marcello's operation runs deeper than just this one shipment. Proof of pattern, conspiracy, organizational structure. His eyes met mine. Information I could get from Marcello's second-in-command. But if I use it to protect your father, I can't also use it to take over the territory. The prosecutors would see right through it if I tried to do both. My chest tightened. You have to choose. I have to choose. He picked up the phone again, typed a response. Between the biggest territorial acquisition I've ever been offered, or keeping my word to you that your father walks away completely clean. Stefano. He hit send, then set the phone down with finality. I chose. Your father's protection comes first. The territory can wait. You just gave up. I gave up nothing. His voice was firm. I made a deal with you. I keep my deals. Always. He moved to sit beside me. Marcello's operation will still fracture. There will be other opportunities. But your father only has one chance at a clean exit. And I promised you he'd get it. Something tight in my chest loosened. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, had just sacrificed a massive business opportunity to keep a promise he'd made to me while I was bleeding on his sofa. Thank you, I said quietly. I know what that cost you. It cost me money and territory. You jumped in front of a bullet. His hand found mine. We're not even close to even. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the city wake up below. What happens now? I asked finally. Now you make a choice. Stefano turned to face me fully. His posture relaxed, but his attention absolute. Your family's safe. The threat's neutralized. Your studio is compromised, but I can relocate your equipment to a new space. Bigger, better secured. In a neighborhood where you won't have to worry about rent. You can go back to your life. Restored, upgraded, clean. Or you stay. He said it simply. No pressure, no manipulation. Just a statement of possibility. You work with me, not as an asset, not as someone under my protection, as a partner. Doing what? What you're brilliant at. Pattern recognition, forgery detection, strategic analysis. He leaned forward slightly. I run a complex operation, Vesper. Legitimate businesses that need protection from people like Marcello. Contracts that need vetting. Deals that need verification. I have lawyers and accountants and security specialists. But I don't have anyone who can look at a piece of paper and tell me in 30 seconds whether I'm about to walk into a trap. You want to hire me. I want to partner with you. There's a difference. His voice was steady, certain. You bring intelligence and expertise I can't buy. I bring resources and protection you'd never have alone. We both benefit, and you'd never have to worry about rent or clients, or whether your next job will cover your mother's medical expenses. It was tempting, terrifyingly tempting. And what about, I gestured between us, not quite able to name what had shifted between the interrogation room and the airstrip, between the cargo verification and the kiss that still burned in my memory. That's separate from the business proposition, Stefano said. You can work with me and keep things professional. You can walk away from both. Or, his eyes darkened slightly. You can have both. But that's your choice. Not a condition of employment. Not an expectation. Your choice. I stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city waking up below. 48 hours ago, I'd been invisible. A woman whose father didn't listen. Whose talent was wasted on preservation work that barely paid bills, whose opinions were dismissed before she finished speaking. Now I was standing in a penthouse, having just helped dismantle a criminal conspiracy, with a man who'd seen me clearly from the moment I jumped in front of a bullet. I spent my whole life being underestimated, I said, not turning around. Being told I didn't understand. Being dismissed because I was Dominic's daughter, not a person with my own mind. I know. And you're offering me a partnership. Real work, real value, a place where what I see actually matters. Yes, I turned to face him. What if I fail? What if I miss something and it costs you? Then we fix it together. That's what partners do. Stefano stood, crossed to where I stood. I'm not offering you this because I think you're perfect. I'm offering it because I've watched you work. I've seen how your mind operates. And I know that having you on my side makes me stronger, smarter, and more protected than I've ever been. You barely know me. I know you jumped in front of a bullet for a stranger. I know you negotiated a deal while bleeding out. I know you called your father even though you knew he wouldn't listen because it was the right thing to do. I know you ran toward danger twice to protect me. His hand came up, gentle against my jaw. I know enough. The same words he'd said before, but they landed differently now. Heavier, more certain. If I stay, I said slowly, I need boundaries, clear ones. Name them. I'm not your possession, not your kept woman. Not someone who exists to make you look good or feel powerful. Agreed. If I disagree with you professionally, I say so. My analysis. My call. You can overrule me, but you don't get to dismiss me. Agreed. And my family stays protected. Not as leverage. Not as a reminder of what you could take away. Protected because we made a deal and you keep your word. Already done. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Anything else? If this, I gestured between us again. If we try this and it doesn't work, professionally we stay professional. No punishment, no retaliation. Clean separation. Fair. His eyes searched mine. Are you negotiating or are you saying yes? I took a breath. Let myself really look at him. This dangerous, powerful man who'd kept every promise, who'd listened when my own father wouldn't, who'd made space for me to be exactly as capable and complicated as I was. I'm saying yes to the partnership, I said. The professional part. I want to work with you. And the rest? I reached up, pulled his face down to mine, and kissed him. Slower this time than the desperate collision at the airstrip. More deliberate. A choice made in calm clarity rather than crisis. When I pulled back, his expression had shifted into something I'd never seen before. Not possession. Not triumph. Wonder. That's a yes to the rest too, I said. But we take it slow. Figure it out as we go. No assumptions. No assumptions, he agreed. His forehead rested against mine. Just to be clear, I'm not good at slow. I noticed. And I'm going to be possessive and controlling and probably overprotective. I noticed that too. And you're going to drive me absolutely insane, challenging everything I do and pointing out patterns I don't want to see. Definitely, I smiled. Think you can handle it? I think I'd be bored with anything less. He kissed me again, longer this time. His hands careful of my injured shoulder but firm everywhere else. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. Stay, work with me, let me keep you safe while you make me smarter, and we'll figure out the rest as we go. Okay? Okay? Yes, I'll stay. The words felt lighter than I expected. Not a surrender, a choice. I'll stay. 3 weeks later, I stood in my new studio, twice the size of the old one, equipped with proper lighting and climate control and security that would make a museum jealous, and studied the canvas in front of me, not a restoration this time, an original. I'd started painting again, not in secret, not hidden away, my name on the signature line. The gallery authentication case last week had been straightforward, a forged Modigliani that took me less than an hour to debunk, saving the buyer $3 million and earning Stefano a favor from a collector with deep pockets. The shipping contract dispute for his logistics company had been more complex. 3 days of analysis that led me to find the discrepancy in the customs documentation that saved him $2 million in fraudulent claims. And just yesterday, I'd consulted on a real estate deal, spotting the forged property liens that would have tangled him in litigation for years. Real work. Work that mattered. Work where my expertise was valued, not dismissed. That's beautiful, Stefano's voice came from the doorway. I turned, found him leaning against the frame in that way he had. All controlled power and absolute attention. It's not finished. It's still beautiful. He crossed to me, wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, careful as always of my healing shoulder. The scar was fading, just a pink line now where the bullet had torn through. Your mother called. She wants to know if you're coming to Sunday dinner. Did you tell her I'm working? I told her you'd call her back. His lips brushed my temple. But between you and me, I think you should go. She misses you. I'd reconciled with my mother and sister, slowly, carefully. They knew I was working with Stefano now, not the details, but enough to understand my life had changed. My sister thought it was romantic in a dangerous sort of way. My mother worried constantly, but had stopped asking questions when she saw how happy I was. My father was another story. We'd spoken twice since his release. Both conversations had been strained, formal. He'd thanked me, technically, for bringing the situation to light, but he'd never actually acknowledged that I'd been right and he'd been wrong. Never admitted that dismissing me had almost cost him everything. He still didn't really see me. Probably never would. But I'd stopped needing him to. "I'll go to dinner," I said, leaning back into Stefano's chest. "But you're coming with me. Your father hates me. My father hates that he needed me, and you saw my value before he did." I turned in his arms. "But my mother wants to meet the man who kept his word. And my sister wants to interrogate you about your intentions." "My intentions are entirely dishonorable." "Good," I kissed him. "That's exactly what I'll tell her." He smiled against my mouth. That rare, genuine smile that I'd learned to treasure. "You're happy." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Yes, I'm happy." And I was. Not because I'd been rescued. Not because I'd traded one cage for a prettier one. But because for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I chose to be. Doing work that mattered. With someone who saw me clearly and wanted me anyway. I was no longer invisible. No longer powerless. No longer afraid to want more. I was Vesper Ashford. Partner. Expert. Woman who jumped in front of a bullet and lived to build something extraordinary from the wreckage. And I was just getting started. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the next Mafia love story. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Your feedback really helps me make these even better for you. Thank you for letting my stories keep you company. It truly means more than you know.